for more on the developments in Ukraine, I'm joined by Ambassador William Taylor from the United States Institute of Peace. He is the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. We're honored to have you. Thanks for joining us, Ambassador Taylor. Let's go back and look at some of the events and what led us to this point. I believe we have a bullet point presentation here to show us exactly what happened. There we go. November 21st, 2013, Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych suspends talks with the EU. Tell us what happened after that.
So the president at that time decided that he was not going to sign with the European Union, the association agreement. He turned around and he was going to join up with the Russians. Well, this enraged the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians went to the streets and they demonstrated month after month after month in the bitter cold in favor of moving towards Europe.
And so I guess a key date was March 1st, 2014, when Russia apparently sent military forces into Crimea.
Right. What happened was there was an agreement that the Europeans and the Ukrainians and the Russians came to, whereby the previous president could stay on, but he left. He fled the country. He went to Russia. At that time, the Ukrainian parliament took over, installed a new president, had a presidential election, and then moved on with a legitimate government.
Not too long after that, in May of 2014, Petro Poroshenko declares victory. Tell us what happened and what unfolded after that.
So in a very good election, one of the best elections that Ukraine has ever had, I observed part of that election down in the southern part of the country. Mr. Poroshenko then moved to establish a government.
I see. And then the Ukraine-EU Association Agreement on June 27th of 2014.
Which, of course, is what started this whole thing in the first place. The Ukrainian people clearly wanted to move toward Europe. When they were thwarted from that by the previous president, Yanukovych, who fled to Russia, they demonstrated, they had elected a new president. The new president responded to the needs, the desires, the wants of the Ukrainian people and moved toward Europe.
And then we have the infamous day, a very sad day, July 17, 2014, when that Malaysia Flight 217 was down. 298 people were killed.
So what happened, of course, it was a turning point. The Russians had, in addition to annexing Crimea, as you mentioned earlier, they moved their forces into the eastern part of Ukraine. Those forces, supported by some Ukrainian separatists, controlled that part of the country. From that part of the country, an anti-aircraft weapon was fired at a civilian airliner and killed 298 people.
And then let's talk about where we are right now. On February 12th this year, obviously this month, the new ceasefire was put in place. More than 5,000 people have been killed. The fate of Debaltseve is sort of up in the air at this point, although we understand that there has been a ceasefire. As we've been reporting, they've been respecting the ceasefire. Where are we and where do you see us going forward?
So the ceasefire that was agreed several weeks ago was not adhered to by the Russian separatists and the Russian military, who are in southeastern Ukraine. So much so that they continued to fight and took over Debaltseve, just exactly as you said. Now, however, there have been steps in the direction of the agreement, the ceasefire agreement, and yesterday there were prisoner exchanges. And today we understand that some of the heavy weapons are being pulled back from both sides over the next week.
Ambassador Taylor, we really appreciate your time and for taking us through this timeline and showing us exactly where we started and how we got to where we are today. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Susan.
Thank you.